Welcome, everybody, and back with another New Earth announcement. We just had the 8/8 Lionsgate portal, and I know that it was a lot of energy, even before the portal, leading up to it. I know everybody's been feeling it, and I was getting a lot of downloads throughout the 8/8 portal and leading up to the full moon, the super moon that we have tomorrow in Aquarius, and how these two are intertwining, and how the 8/8 portal was setting us up for the supermoon tomorrow in Aquarius. So the downloads that I got throughout the 8/8 portal was, obviously we know that the number 8 symbolizes abundance. It's a very powerful number, often associated with Scorpio and the 8th house. But it also is an infinity symbol, right? And so the 8 holds this magic where it's infinite. And then I kept seeing the vision of us kind of breaking out of the limitations of the 3D and the way that we think in 3D, which is very linear, very boxed in. It's overly rigid, overly structured. There's really no room for creativity or for flow. And it's challenging when you're trying to deprogram that limited thinking, and how the 8 is so infinite. And I did see a vision of our 8th chakras finally being activated. And the 8th chakra is the soul chakra. It's the soul star chakra. And so what that was showing me was we are now finally activating the soul star chakra, which we are now above the limited earthly 7 chakras, and we're actually connecting into the infinite. And they say that the soul star chakra is where, it connects us in with our full soul essence, our multi-dimensional selves, whereas the 7 chakras, we work with, our earthly beings and our vessels and the energy that we are carrying in physicality. But the 8th chakra opens us up to the infinite, to our multi-dimensional selves, to our higher selves. We connect in with the infinite, the quantum field, the pure source energy. And so we kind of reunite with our souls through that chakra. And we also then reunite with, cosmic truth. We reunite with source. We are then able to kind of be able to rise above the limited thinking and suddenly be able to see things in a very multidimensional way, and see unlimited possibilities where before we may have seen no possibilities, no hope, no anything. And so that was coming online during the Lionsgate. And what was also shown to me then was how this was leading us up to come into a more balanced harmonics chakra system. So if we look at the chakra system, the original, the 7 chakras, we can look at how there are masculine chakras and then there are feminine chakras, right? And we look at how the root is very masculine, the foundation setting. And so the root would connect to the solar plexus, which would connect to the throat chakra, which would connect to the crown chakra. And we can look at that yang masculine part of our chakra system. And we, of course, can also see, and we'll get to how all the chakras became kind of corrupted. But those are the yang energies. With the root, we actually physically build the foundation. That's where we create our foundation. We set the stage, just like if we're building a home, you have to actually build the foundation. And then, of course, we have the solar plexus, which is the empowerment. And that is also a yang energy. throat expression, yang. The crown can be when you're receiving information. It's also through which people get stuck in the mind as well. But it's the thinking, it's the thoughts, it's the being able to access thoughts, being able to actually organize and decode your thoughts and the information you're receiving. When we're learning things, reading things, we are always using the crown chakra. It decodes, it interprets, and it allows us to basically learn things. And then we have the more feminine chakras. We have the sacral, which is the flow. It's the giving and the receiving. It's the life force. It's where life is produced. And it's also where our creativity flows from, And that links to the heart chakra, which is, of course, where we emanate our unconditional love that we receive from source out. And this links up to our third eye, which is our intuition, our ability to perceive things beyond the physical, our ability to tap in for guidance, our ability to kind of sense and intuit what to do next. It's also our imagination. And this actually then connects to the 8th soul star chakra. So we're coming into more of a balanced harmonics chakra system because the 7, wasn't even, but the 8 is even for feminine and for masculine chakras. And I kind of saw the vision of how they, because the root will flow through the sacral, which will flow through the throat, and then the root through the solar, through the throat and the crown, and then the feminine through the sacral and the heart and the third eye and the 8th. And it is the spiral of life. It is the spinal column. And this is the balanced harmonics energy that we're now able to anchor in. And of course, a lot of people talk about the Lion's Gate being the opening of the heart chakra. I fully agree. And especially this particular 8-8 portal, because of the energies that we now have being brought in from the full moon in Aquarius. So that was my download for the 8-8 portal, was coming into a balanced harmonic chakra system. And also kind of flushing out and detoxifying all of the lower energies of the chakra system so that they all can flow and work together perfectly. So there was a full clearing being done, which I felt, and then the 8th chakra activating and plugging in to bring us into where the energies are now. And so the energies for the super full moon and how this kind of ties in with everything is humanity was boxed in by the matrix into mostly living in the bottom 3 chakras. So we typically operate mostly in the 3D, not connected at all to our higher selves. We're operating mostly in the bottom 3 chakras. And that's our security and survival. That is our reproduction. These are kind of the very earthly 3D interpretations of the chakras, obviously. And the solar plexus is the self, the expression of self and its identity, right? So, but we were really cut off from the heart. And this was done through the ego programmed mind, which, we go in depth many times about explaining how that was done. But the ego programmed mind, the root of it is the fight or flight survival mechanism. And so that fight or flight survival mechanism affects the root chakra directly. It is, you can imagine it as like the root being the foundation. It's been diseased. It's been, it wasn't built correctly. It wasn't built in integrity. It is a very shaky foundation. And it's, if you imagine a plant or a tree, if the roots are diseased, the rest of the tree or the plant is going to die and wither out. If you build a house with an unsturdy foundation, the foundation is not solid, the house will collapse. No matter how well built the rest of the house is, if the foundation isn't solid, it won't survive, right? And so since we've been boxed into the lower 3, We've been cut off. So that's why a lot of you may have felt over your spiritual journey, if you've ever felt like this, because I definitely have, where there was this huge gap, right, between the solar and the heart. It's like they're not connecting. It's almost like we're living in two different compartmentalized areas of the system. We have the upper chakras, and when you're in that space, you're in the heart space, you're feeling the love, you're feeling the compassion for others, for yourself, for everything. You're just really, you can get into that space where you're so filled with love. You express it, you're joyful, you love connecting with other people, you're really in tune with your intuition and your crown, getting guidance. And so we kind of call that like living in the upper realms, right? And then it's almost like then we kind of fluctuate, and then we have to go back to living in the lower chakras, because we still have to have, food and shelter and survival, and we have certain needs as being a human that have to be met. And it's been hard to feel like both of those systems were flowing effortlessly between each other, because the truth is that they aren't. And so you can kind of see how this manifests externally is this split in consciousness. You have those operating mostly at the lower three, and then you have those operating mostly in the upper chakras. And that is the split of consciousness that we are, witnessing in reality and around us. We're seeing how some people are so stuck in the lower three chakras. All they can focus on is what's in front of them, what they can see, what they can touch, what, they believe to be true. They're not entering these upper chakras. And then you have those that are kind of living in the upper chakras and not grounded and not stable and, not creating an inner foundation. So we've been kind of facilitating back and forth between these two. And I really feel that this 8-8 portal, it not only opened up the heart chakra, but reconnected us so that we're now flowing seamlessly through all the chakras, perfect yin yang and balanced harmonics. So I don't know if you guys felt that, but it was what I just kept seeing in my visions. And leads us perfectly into the understanding of this supermoon. So when we talked about the fight or flight mechanism and how that is basically put into the root chakra, it damaged our root chakras so severely that, again, just like the foundation of a house, if the root wasn't solid, the rest of the chakras were struggling to operate at a higher capacity because the root is the foundation. So we see through fight or flight in the damaged root chakra that presents as lack, deep fear and survival mode, which can lead to greed, to lack, acting out of fear. And it just leads to a lot of instability, and it leads to all of us seeking that external security so desperately, because the true foundation of the root chakra is trust. And so when we lack trust, we then seek externally to make us feel safe. And really the whole time that's the backwards way of doing things. It's our inner trust that creates the solid foundation. And so we are moving out of fight or flight, and we have to move into the trust to really anchor in. So the part of the clearing now of all of these chakras, now that I feel they've all been reconnected and they're kind of clearing, we're having to clear out from the root first, which is the survival and the lack and the fear. The sacral, the lowers of the sacral that we have been trapped in was pain and suffering. The sacral is all about joy. It's all about pleasure, experiencing life, loving life, giving and receiving equally in flow, expression, creativity, fertility, all of those things. It's about creation and it's about flow. And we have been stuck in the pain and suffering that comes from the damaged root. Now the sacral's damaged, and we only experience pain and suffering. We don't flow, we don't express our emotions well, we tend to suppress them. We struggle with a lot of the lower emotions and the pain on all levels, physical, emotional pain. And we've stopped the flow of the giving and receiving and of the creative expression. It's all been like locked in, like the dam has been put up and all the water's just being held there, and it simply wants to flow. And so we are going to be returning, hopefully, to the true energies of the sacral, which are creativity and joy and creation. That's what the sacral is all about. And then the solar, we are letting go of the old energies of the solar, which put us very much into an obsession and attachment to self-identity. And through that severe attachment to self-identity, we reinforce this idea of separation, that I'm me and you're you, and we are not the same. And so this extreme form of individuality became a deep form of separation, and then it led to the false empowerment, which is powering over others, dominating others, taking from others. It's a false sense of empowerment. It leads to arrogance and to overinflation of self, because we don't have the understanding or the remembrance that we're all one. And so that is going through a cleansing as well. And then the heart chakra, of course, the damaged energies there was the conditional love versus the unconditional love. And again, this occurred because the foundation was never solid, and also because we took a real hard hit as our hearts were really disconnected from us, and it was very challenging to reconnect to the heart because of so much pain and suffering and kind of atrocities that have gone on this planet. Everybody closed their heart out of just a protection mechanism as well. So we have the conditional love clearing out, love based on guilt, based on obligation, loving with conditions, expecting something of somebody else, wanting to kind of control them in a way, jealousy, possessiveness, manipulation, all of these just lower defense mechanisms that the damaged chakra built up are just going to start coming down, and we're going to start feeling that true wave of unconditional love, which is where we can love everybody regardless of where they're at on their journey, regardless of their choices, regardless of what we think they should do. It's all just unconditional love, kindness and compassion and forgiveness. Forgiveness is a big part of this. We just have to forgive. We have to forgive ourselves. We have to forgive others. We have to just have universal forgiveness. Because universal forgiveness is what heals all things. It heals everything. It clears karmic energy. It opens up the heart. It it brings you the miracles and the blessings because there's no negative emotions blocking it. So forgiveness is a huge part of the heart chakra opening that we're experiencing. And of course, the throat. The lower expression is so many things, but, just the lower usage of words to try and, I think, proving points is a big one, always trying to prove a point to someone, trying to convince someone, debate and argue with them, things like that, or using our expression to hurt other people. And again, there's no attachment to words. It's all about the frequency. And so it's really going to perfect the frequency, I think, of our expression. It's not going to be so focused on what we say, because we've become so overly attached. This is part of the lower of the throat chakra, is this attachment to words and this idea that we can battle with words and someone's going to win. And, words only have the power that you give them. And so I think that the dissolving of the attachment to words is the first part, and then really harmonizing our frequency. You know, the frequency in which we speak is what's important, not the words. And so we're going to develop a better form of communication, because we're going to be actually communicating from the heart and not so, so overly focused on what's being said, because you can feel the frequency. And the third eye clearings are hopefully going to clear out a lot of distortions, because a lot of our third eyes have been severely damaged. And, this can lead to just not having good discernment, not being able to discern like what's real, what's not, what's true and what's not. This is why humanity is mostly very confused. They don't know what the truth is, and they're relying on old forms of discernment, which are like, oh, show me the proof, or show me what the experts say. It's like this very over attachment to information. And instead now we're going to be bringing in the true self-discernment, which when the third eye is healed and activated, it's not so much about, seeing visions and things, although that is great and wonderful. And we all have had those moments which bring us, some really amazing messages. It's also to be able to see things differently, to start seeing things in the higher, and to have a discernment level that is just so natural and organic to us. And this ends with the crown clearing, which is a lot of people's crowns have never even been opened. They've never really been able to access, the higher thought. And so a lot of people hopefully will start to get those higher thought messages. This can come in synchronicities. This can come in all of a sudden you are led to reading something or listening to something, and you don't know why, and all of a sudden you get downloaded with all these clues and information. And so the crown chakra now won't be so focused in the lower, which is on just excessive thought, excessive thought and lower thought, which is where the ego mind was implanted. And now opening to higher thought, to unlimited thought. And of course, connecting us then to our higher self through the 8th chakra. So this is the clearing. And so the message that I got about the supermoon tomorrow is what's really interesting is we have this grand cross energy. So for those of you who are like unfamiliar with astrology, real quick and simple. So there are 3 different modalities in astrology, and there are also 4 different elements. So elements are easy, right? We have the fire signs, the air signs, the water signs, and the earth signs, and those make up the 4 elements of existence, well, in this plane anyway. And then we have the 3 modalities. So the modalities are the way in which that element is expressed. So we have 3 types of ways in which those elements are expressed. We have the cardinal signs, which are the leadership signs. They like to take initiative. They are always looking for what the next kind of step is, and they want to just keep getting to higher and higher levels. So they like to initiate. I'm a cardinal sign, so we like to initiate. We like to always kind of have these ideas of what can we expand into next. So they're really ambitious, and they always have like a vision that they're kind of continuously focusing on, the next highest vision, the greatest potential. So they're great leadership signs. And so the cardinal signs express in all ways. We have the Aries energy, which is the fire cardinal, which is going to express very different from Libra, the air cardinal, or from Cancer, the water cardinal. So every modality contains the 4 elements, and they express themselves differently. And this is how we create harmony and symbiosis, with all beings. We're all holding a little piece. So you have the cardinal signs, the leadership. And then you have the mutable signs, which are the flow signs. So this is Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. And those signs they're the flow. They're the ones that are always trying something new, experimenting with something new, They're always open to changing things up. And they learn through change and through new experiences and through trying new things. So they keep everything fresh, right? They are the ones that, if the leadership is the ones that kind of have a vision and they're bringing us towards that vision, and that highest potential, the mutable signs are kind of the ones who are experimenting on how do we get there, right? Let's try this, let's try that. And they're helping that process of getting to that highest potential. Now, the fixed signs are the foundational signs. These are the signs that make sure that the foundation of whatever is being done is solid. They hold the structure, and they're the base. They're the immovable ones. So the fixed signs, which are, now I'm like at Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius, and Taurus. Those are our fixed modalities. So if you are someone who is a fixed modality, or you have a lot of fixed modalities in your chart, you're going to notice that you're quite stubborn. That's the energy. The fixed sign doesn't want to make too many changes. It doesn't want to rush, doesn't want to move too fast, because the fixed signs are making sure that the foundation's always solid. Somebody's got to hold the line, somebody's got to hold the fort down. While the mutable signs are, changing constantly, and the cardinal signs are always on to the next thing, they have to make sure that the foundation and everything is set up. So we love how this all works together. It's perfect. But of course, in the 3D realm, where we have the ego mind and we have fear, and we have this fight or flight that has poisoned our root. We've experienced mostly the lower of all of these modalities and all of these signs, because we have to evolve in order to now embody and experience the higher of these expressions. So if the cardinal signs are the leadership, I would associate them, if we're talking about the third dimensional realm and how we have mostly been operating from the lower 3 chakras, we've also been mostly operating in the lower energies of the astrology signs and their modalities, right? Again, everything's going to evolve and always change, but this is what we've predominantly experienced here in this realm. So the cardinal signs are kind of like the solar plexus signs, right? They are very strong in who they are. They like to lead, which is the empowerment of the solar. And they like to initiate. They believe in themselves. They have high visions. And they're kind of the ones that are like, I know I can do this. Let's go for it. And of course, the lower of the solar and the lower of that modality has meant that a lot of leaders or people who have these qualities are leading in a selfish way. It's about them and their validation and their ego and their arrogance, and not about true empowerment and empowering others, and having true leadership qualities, which is to empower all people, right? And the mutable signs are very associated with the sacral, because that's the flow. And of course, in the lower, the mutable signs either change too much and they never actually follow anything through, which can be sometimes what we experience if we have an unhealed sacral. We're kind of in too many directions. We don't know how to really focus on anything. Or it can kind of become where we are somehow blocking the flow of something, where the mutable signs are always supposed to flow. And so when they become afraid, or they become bogged down by lower emotions, by pain and suffering, and then they're no longer in joy, they're no longer, experimenting and experiencing life, they're shut down. And this leads us to the root, which holds the energy of the fixed signs. And so tomorrow on this super full moon, we have what's known as a grand conjunction. And the grand cross, on my words today, See, don't attach to words. The Grand Cross. And a Grand Cross in astrology is where you have planets that are in each of the 4 signs of that modality. So for instance, tomorrow's super moon is all in fixed signs. All of the 4 fixed signs are basically creating a cross of energy. And when you have a Grand Cross, imagine it's pressure in all directions, right? Because all 4 signs are creating pressure because the planet in that sign is creating this pressure within the modality. And when you have a Grand Cross in fixed signs, it's going to operate very differently than it would in cardinal or mutable. If the Grand Cross was occurring in the cardinal signs, it would basically just be that the 4 different signs are all competing to lead. There's competing energy everywhere. And so somebody's got to compromise somewhere, right? Or they have to figure out how to work together and lead and not be competing with one another. If you had it in 4 mutable signs, all the mutable signs would be waiting for someone else to make the first move because they're all about kind of flow and sitting back and just allowing things to unfold. So you have unclear, chaotic energy, right? And with the fixed signs, all the fixed signs are not moving. No one is budging. Everyone is in complete refusal to move a muscle, to take a step forward, to change. It is like 4 brick walls just facing off at each other. And what that does is this creates this extreme pressure. And so the vision that I had was that pressure is going to create cracks in the foundation because those signs are holding our foundational energies in the root. And so the cracks are going to start happening. And as soon as one crack occurs, the whole thing begins to crack and ultimately to crumble. And I don't say that in a fear way. This is all very positive. But what's necessary is because that foundation now has to crumble. The old foundation, the old energies of the root have to crumble so that the root can finally be healed and we now have a solid foundation, and we now build upon that. All the other chakras can now align, activate, flow, and we can actually begin to, operate as multidimensional beings. We can actually begin to build new earth. We can begin again, basically. We build the new paradigm through this. So this foundational pressure is occurring we've got Taurus and Scorpio on 2 ends of the fixed sign spectrum. And both of these signs, both Taurus and Scorpio, seek all of these signs in the fixed, right? They seek stability and they seek things to stay the same. They don't like change because they're meant to kind of hold the line, hold it all down. And so in the lower forms, Taurus that energy got corrupted into where it was all about external security. It was all about hoarding as much money and possessions and energy as possible, right? Make sure you get it all and you keep it. And the true energies of Taurus is being so in line and so in tune with Mother Earth and Mother Nature that Taurus is able to take solid, slow, and steady steps, but it is always in tune. And it allows flow, and it allows giving and receiving. It's not blocking anything, right? It's not hoarding anything. It's open to the flow. It's open to the elements of nature. It's also, Taurus rules over, abundance and agriculture and land. So we can see how those energies are like super at play in the collective. And then you have Scorpio, who's all about emotional security. If Taurus is about the physical, Scorpio is all about the emotional security. So typically the lower end, Scorpio can hold back its vulnerability. It holds back its true self out of fear. because they crave emotional security, and that's why they struggle to trust other people a lot, be vulnerable and open with them. They experience a lot of betrayal and things like that because that's part of their contract. And so the healing of that is that Scorpio is able to face anything and not only heal it, forgive it, and use it as an empowerment. Any lower emotion, any challenging or dark experience becomes its greatest gift, becomes its ability to transform and rebirth and to ultimately help others heal as well. So those two are going through a lot of changes. We have the North Node, which is the collective destiny, Uranus, the planet of evolution and like sudden surprises, and Mars, the planet of divine action, all in Taurus. So we are getting hit hard in the Taurus area, that part of that foundation has to crumble. And this is opposing the South Node in Scorpio. And the South Node in Scorpio is like basically bringing all the skeletons out of the closet. The South Node is exposing to all of us, nothing is external from us. So everything we see play out on the world stage, in other people, whatever it may be, it's all a reflection of the damaged consciousness that has been on this planet. And we have to be able to see it, heal it, take accountability for it, forgive it. That's an important part of this whole process. Otherwise, we keep creating more of it. So we're doing deep emotional healing through the South Node because it's bringing out, all the collective skeletons that are within the consciousness that must be seen and faced. So those are 2 points creating pressure. They're forcing change upon us in our foundational environment. So not only within ourselves, but the foundation of our societies, of our world, are going to have to crumble and be rebuilt and rebirthed. And we're seeing the cracks happen with this. And so the other 2 points in the Grand Cross is we have the Aquarius-Leo axis. And so the supermoon, the full moon, will be in Aquarius, which is lighting up our soul's calling to really see ourselves as one, with all, to really get our fulfillment from humanitarianism, from helping other people, co-creating with other people, coming together as one rather than being so separate, which is the lower energies of Leo. So the Aquarius is like, it's calling for us to come together as one, as a collective, as communities. And the moon, the full moon, is also going to be conjunct Saturn in Aquarius, who's retrograde also. Saturn's right on top of the moon. So Saturn is giving us, is going to be bringing us, I feel, the realities of the restrictions that we have created, the separateness that we have allowed. It's going to be bringing us, Saturn brings us the harsh truths, the harsh reality. And it's not to punish us. It's simply to be like, listen, this is what it is. And you got to face it. And so I think we're going to face, the divisiveness that has gone on and how we view everybody as separate and this division. And, we're all just kind of on our own island, and really all we need to do is come together. So I don't know how that's going to particularly play out, but Aquarius does also rule the internet and the collective consciousness. So I would not be surprised if there was some harsh realities that occur within the collective and maybe are shared through the internet, on social media, something like that. And, somehow highlighting the need for us to all come together somehow. And then we have the Leo, the final point, which the sun is in Leo, and Venus is also going to enter Leo as well tomorrow. So we have the sun just kind of lighting up the Leo energies, and we're dissolving the separatism, we're dissolving the obsession with self-identity and powering over others, wanting to control others, and wanting to put ourselves on pedestals, and just, not acknowledging the beauty of all people, the beauty of all things, appreciating the different expressions. We've we've come to a point where I think that Saturn on the moon in Aquarius is also going to show us how we've tried to make everybody the same. And instead we're not embracing the beauty of the individual expression, which is Leo. And so these are all creating cracks in the system of the foundation that will have to crumble and be rebuilt. And this is both within and without. But within this, so as I see the root being completely deconstructed and rebirthed, this is going to play out in the physical as well. Obviously, I don't know how, we shall see. But if you're feeling particularly like destabilized or just super uncomfortable, that's just part of this process. Because remember, we're going to do this work internally as well, even though this is also going to hit the collective as a whole. And what are we being called to restructure with our foundation? And it'll be really easy to tell what it is, because it'll be something that has come up over and over again. And remember that we have to reestablish trust as our foundational energy. And so I see how, this pressure cooker and kind of the foundation cracks and crumbles, and then out of it just emerges, like a lotus flower almost. And we're going to be creating the foundation for now the new earth to begin manifesting. And the heart is now going to be connected, and the heart now becomes kind of our yin to yang bookends of the foundation, right? Because we have the what we would refer to as the earthly lower chakras are now all going to be healed, connected, and we're going to have the root of trust and the heart of unconditional love as the two bookends, the two pillars of our bottom chakras. And so the heart is super important. Love is our new foundation. Love and trust are the two pillars of our foundation now. And if you're struggling, and there's a lot of people who are going to struggle with this, to really get into the heart, love is the answer and the solution to all things. Love is the answer and the solution to all things. And that's going to create the perfect inner foundation for the upper chakras, the upper four chakras. And so there's a lot of energy with this. And if you guys feel guided, of course, full moon ceremonies and things like that. But I really feel it's a time of a lot of like internal reflection and healing. Definitely don't get too caught up in the external right now, because the external is always behind of what internal work we're doing. So what's playing out externally right now is just a little bit of a lag from a lot of the inner work we've already done at the first half of this year. But things are speeding up to where there won't be so much of a lag. But this is definitely a really big month to, I think, change the direction of our journeys, the trajectory of our journeys, and most importantly, to just get fully into the heart and really trust. And the miracles will start pouring in, because we couldn't experience the full amount of miracles before, because we were in so much fight or flight. And that's fear is the complete opposite of love. And love is miracles. Source energy is just, it's miracles. That's all it is. And so the only thing that can ever occur in true reality is miracles. So I think we're in the dawn of the age of miracles and just a lot of healing. And it's exciting, it's destabilizing, it's uncomfortable, it's all of the above. It's everything. It's the full spectrum. So spiritual disciplines are definitely, encouraged. If anybody has questions, please reach out. And of course, if you're looking, for one-on-one guidance or assistance, please book a session. And love you guys, and we'll be back soon.